Looks like we have started. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our second edition of AlbumWorks Presents, part of our ongoing live webinar series. Apologies. Apologies, everyone. Good afternoon. I think we weren't working before, but hopefully we are now. Thanks for joining us and welcome to our second edition of AlbumWorks Presents, part of our ongoing webinar series. My name is Naomi and I'm a member of our customer service team here in Melbourne. If this is the first time you're joining us, given we're all stuck at home for the moment, we thought you may have some spare time to start working on those photo books that you've been putting off. So I hope you find this webinar useful. We want this to be an interactive session for everyone, so please feel free to ask questions along the way. To ask a question, you should see the webinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You can type your question into this dialog box and send it. If you're using a tablet, then there should be a question mark in the top right-hand corner of your screen. You can click on that or touch that to ask a question, and I'll make time at the end to answer your questions. In this series, I'll be working with the downloadable editor, which is on a Windows computer. The Mac version of the editor is the same, so Mac users will be able to follow along. Today's webinar should run for approximately 10 to 15 minutes, and today's topic is editing your photos in the downloadable editor. I'm going to be looking at cropping photos, photo enhancements, and picture box enhancements. Okay, let's get started. Pardon me for one moment while I get to the right screen. Okay. Hopefully now you should all be able to see my editor screen. So I've got a blank page open here ready to go. The first thing I'm going to talk about is cropping photos. But before we do, it is important to know the difference between your photos and a picture box. So a picture box is a box that you put a photo into. Here there's a button that says add picture box. If I put my mouse over it, it should do, but it's not. When I click on that, it adds a box to my page. This is a picture box. When I add something to it, that's adding a photo to a picture box. I'll just delete that for now. So with cropping, picture boxes are important because you have to crop. You can only crop in the dimensions of the picture box that your photo's in. To get started, I'll add a picture directly to an empty page like this. I'm just going to make the photo larger so that you can all see it. When you add a photo to a page with no page style on there already, the whole picture will appear. It hasn't been cropped. You should see the whole photo. If you would like to crop that photo to zoom in on it or show part of the photo, double click on that photo and you'll see the cropping screen. In this screen, down the bottom right is a white square, and you use that to crop the photo. So when I move it, drag on it upwards, you'll see part of the photo is now highlighted and part of it is not. The bit that's highlighted is what will show in your book. And you notice that I can only crop in a portrait shape because that's the shape of the picture box that the picture's in. I can choose to, if I want to highlight a different part of the photo, I can just hold my mouse down and drag to the bit of the photo that I want to show. So I want to show this bit with all the balloons in it. Then I can click OK, and it's cropped my photo. So that's cropping when you put a whole photo on the page. It's a different scenario when you already have picture boxes on the page. So for example, let's just add a picture box. You'll see it's square shaped. So if I want to put that same photo in here, it has cropped it quite a bit because the photo is portrait, but the picture box is square. When I double click on it, I can only crop it in a square shape, up or down. If I want to be able to crop it in a portrait shape, which is the shape of the photo, then I need to adjust my picture box first. And to do that, I can click on these blue dots around the photo. So if I want to make it taller, I go like that. I can then double click and I can drag my white square as far out as I can, and you can include more of the photo in the picture. If I have a crop photo and I decide that I want to go back to the original shape to see the whole photo back again, you can right click on the image, left click on fit, and then click fit box to picture, and it'll bring back the entire image again. So sometimes you might want to use a page style that we have in our program. So for example, I drag this page style onto the page and I would like to add a few photos here. They are going to be cropped because these photos are not, the photos are rectangular, whereas the picture boxes, they're in a square. So if you want to keep this page style on the page, you do have to work, like you'll have to crop your photos to fit the squares. So I can't get all of this photo in. So I have to decide whether I want to work with a page style or whether I'd rather have the whole photo in there. That's cropping photos. The next thing I was going to talk about are photo enhancements. So there are a number of ways of enhancing the photos themselves. The most important of those is auto enhance. And I highly recommend that you use auto enhance for pretty much all of your photos. Auto enhance uses a mathematical formula to improve the brightness and contrast of your photos to make them as best as they can be for printing. I'm going to give you an example of using it. Most of my photos don't need auto enhancing, unfortunately, because they have been taken by some professionals. But here's a good photo that I'm going to add to my page, which does need a bit of auto enhancing. I'm just going to make it bigger again so you can see. So the first thing you need to do is click on your photo. So it's got blue dots around the edges. That means it's highlighted. Then on this right-hand side of the screen, you've got 5 tabs along the top. You click on the second tab, and down here you have picture enhancement. When I click on auto enhance, perfectly clear, have a look at that photo of the Sydney Harbour Bridge and see what happens. I'm going to click it now. Okay, so it's added some contrast to that photo, a little bit of definition as well. Basically, it has done what it thinks is necessary for printing to improve it. So if I untick it, I decide I don't like it, I can untick it, and it's back to where it was. I'd say 99% of the time, auto enhance is worth doing. The only time sometimes it's not as good as if you have night shots where the blacks in the background can lighten them a bit. You can also auto enhance more than one photo on a page. So to highlight more than one photo, hold down your shift key and click on each photo that you want to enhance, and you'll see they all have blue dots around the edges. It's not going to let me auto enhance because I'd already done it to one of them. So hang on, I'm just going to remove that auto enhance. Right, I'm going to highlight all the photos now. And when I click auto enhance, it'll do it to all of them. Okay, other features of picture features that you can do. There's a remove red eye button. I'm going to add a photo here. I'll pop her in here. All right. Even it shows it's very low resolution because unfortunately I had to grab this photo from the web. I'm just going to zoom in on her for a minute, sorry, so that you can see her eyes a bit better if it lets me. Yep. Okay. So you can see her eyes have got pretty bad red eye. To do the red eye, all you have to do is click on this remove red eye button and you'll see her eyes have gone black. So it tries to hone in on red in the screen. It's not a perfect feature, so do check that it does what you want it to do. If it doesn't, you may need to use an external editor to remove red eye. The other picture enhancements here, you can change the color mode of a photo. So let's say this elephant, for example, I've clicked on it. I might decide that I want it to be in black and white, so I can choose black and white. If I don't like that, I could also have the option of sepia, or I can go back to the original. You also have the option of adjusting the brightness and contrast manually yourself by using this slider to the left and right. That makes the image darker or lighter, and contrast as well. You can make it more or less contrasty. If you need, these are pretty much the options that are in our editor. If you do want to do more editing of photos, you might want to use an external editor such as Photoshop or Lightroom. Finally, I was going to go through picture box enhancements. So these are enhancements to the box itself, regardless of whether you have a photo in it. So for example, you might want to add borders to your photos. What we'll do is you click on this first tab here on the right-hand side. If I want to add a border to my elephant, I click on the elephant. I then click on border, and it's added a very thin black border around the edge. I can change the size of the border by using this slider on the right-hand side to make it bigger or smaller. I can change the color. If I want it to be red or another color, I can just click on the color, and you can choose any color from the color spectrum. If you choose other, you can then click on whatever color you want here. I'm going to go back to black. Okay. You can also, I'll remove that border for now. You can also add a drop shadow by clicking on this button here, and you'll see it's added a drop shadow to the photo. You can, with borders and drop shadows, you can do it to all photos on the page if you want. So again, to highlight every photo, hold down your Shift key, click on all the photos on the page, and then click drop shadow, and it's added a drop shadow to all the photos. You can change the offset of the shadow here, make it bigger or smaller, a bit small. And you can change the angle, the blur, the color, etc. I'm going to take that drop shadow off. And one other thing you can do is add a vignette. So if you click on the second button at the top of your column on the right, and then click vignette, it will add a vignette to each photo. You can change the size of the vignette again, make it bigger or smaller, and you can change the blur. So that's quite good, I don't mind that. And the color as well if you want to. So that's pretty much picture enhancements, picture box enhancements. The other thing that we will go into another time more, but I'll just give you a quick example of, is that down the bottom of our screen we have page styles, etc. There is a button here called frames, and you can add frames. These are custom frames that we've designed to your photos. So to do that, you just drag a frame onto your photo, and I'm getting I'll just ignore that, a message. So it's added that frame. I can add another frame. Oops, don't like that one. Let's just drag a different frame on that looks a bit better. So you can add frames there. All right, so that's about it for today. If you don't mind just waiting one moment while I check to see if we have any questions. So just bear with me. Okay, it looks like I do have a question. If I use photos from iPhone, will they be okay? The answer is generally yes. It depends what setting you have for the camera on your iPhone. But if you're just using the factory settings, yes, and it's a fairly new iPhone, they should be absolutely fine. Pretty much all modern phones now have a very high resolution, so you shouldn't have any issues with using those at all. All right, I'll just check if there's any more questions. Oh, yes, we have another question. How do you add words to the page? I was going to look at that another day, but I can quickly just tell you how to add words to a page. On your screen, you have a box here called Add Text Box, which it's not saying anything for me, but if I click on that, it adds a text box to my page, and you can drag that anywhere you want. Once you have that text box on the page, you can double click into it and start typing. And you'll see it appear on the page. That's pretty much how you do it. I will have another webinar on text editing at some point. Okay, so just before we go, sorry, I was just going to do a quick recap of what we've done today. So if you have a look at this screen, so basically what we've looked at is cropping photos, so cropping within the picture itself, and then the picture box, and then changing the dimensions of the picture box. We've looked at photo enhancements, how to use auto enhance, remove red eye, color modes, and brightness and contrast. And finally, we've looked at picture box enhancements, so borders and frames, drop shadows, and vignettes. Before you go, don't forget you are welcome to call our customer service team if you need any assistance. We are here Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time. Our phone number is 1300 553 448. You can also reach us by email, which is service@albumworks.com.au, or you can talk to us via live chat from our website. You can also have a look at our website, www.albumworks.com.au, to view our current promotion, which will help you save on your next order, as well as enter our photo competition. There's 5 HD photo books to be won, each valued at $250, and that competition ends on Thursday, so have a look at that as soon as you can. Just remember, it's business as usual for our Albumworks production. We're still here making your photo products. There may be a slight delay in delivery times, but you can have a look and read about that on our website. Thanks again for joining us. Looking forward to having you here again on Wednesday at the same time. Stay safe and happy photo bookmaking. Thank you.